As a pastor, I've had the honor and the weight of officiating numerous funerals. Nobody ever talked about anxiety. Nobody mentioned the panic attacks that their loved one had. Nobody said he was such an overthinker or her depression had such a grip on her life. You know what they did talk about? The values that shaped how they lived. And that tells us something crucial about what actually matters at the end of a life. Now today, I'm going to help you identify what you want your life to stand for, and starting with a question that most people never ask themselves. Let me take you into those funeral services for a moment. I stood beside families who had lost spouses, parents, children, lifelong friends. I listened as they told stories, shared memories, and found words to honor the person that they loved. And the stories were always the same kind. He was so dedicated to his family. She always made people feel important around her. He showed up for people when it mattered, not just when it was convenient. She lived with such kindness. Those stories weren't about feelings at all. They were about choices, commitments, the direction someone consistently moved in. There was one older gentleman in our church who did something unusual. He had a funeral service for himself at his home while he was still alive, just so he could hear what people would say about him. Now, it's common to give flowers at a funeral. It's uncommon to receive your flowers before you die. But what if you could hear those words now? What if you knew what story your life is telling? So I want you to pause this video right now and grab something to write with. Yeah, I want you, seriously, pause this video and get a pen. This only works if you actually do it. Okay, here's your question. What do you want people to say about you when your life is over? Not what you hope they'll say, but what you want your actions to reflect. If you were to write the first draft of your epitaph, that brief statement about who you were, what words would you want there? On the screen, there's some examples to reflect upon. Which of these do you want your life to reflect? Take 30 seconds and write down 3 to 5 words that matter most to you. Maybe they're on the screen, maybe they're dear to you. I'll share mine. Here lies Sean, our dearly beloved brother, who was kind, patient, a loving husband and father, a teacher, a lifelong learner, present for anyone who was with him, and genuine. Who you saw is who he was. Now those words you just wrote, they're not just nice ideas. They're the beginning of identifying your values, and that's what we're going to build on today. Now let me explain what values actually are, because most people misunderstand this. First, values are directions, they're not destinations. Meaning values are not like goals that you complete. They're directions that you return to again and again. For example, you don't finish being a loving parent. My son, he's 15 now, and I'm still learning what that means every single day. You don't complete being honest. You don't check off being present. Values are lived out moment by moment. They're ongoing patterns, not achievements. Now I want to do a quick reality check. I want you to look at those words that you wrote down. Are any of them things that you can complete? If so, that might be a goal, not a value. You see, values are infinite. You can always move in that direction. Secondly, values aren't about feeling good. Now here's the part that surprises people. Values often lead you straight into discomfort. In fact, being courageous often includes fear. Being loving includes vulnerability. Being honest includes risk. When I choose to be present with someone in pain, compassion doesn't feel comfortable in the moment. It feels heavy, but it matters. Values aren't about comfort. They're about direction. What values are not? Now, values are not morals handed down from someone else. They're not rules for how you should behave. And they're not reactions to anxiety, like I value safety, really meaning that I want to avoid discomfort. Values are not achievements that you earn. They're not external approvals. Values are chosen by you, not by your anxiety, not by your fear, and not by your past. Now, what values are? Values are qualities of action, ongoing patterns of behavior, ways of showing up in the world, choices you return to even when anxiety is loud. They're the why behind your willingness to feel discomfort. Now, think of values as the soil that you grow your life. They're the reason that you choose to be willing. Now, let's look at values in action. I want to give you some concrete examples. I want you to think of a value like being present with my kids. You don't wait until you feel calm to do that. You do it because it matters, even when your mind is racing or you got a million things going on. Or being honest. Honesty doesn't require comfort. It requires alignment with who you want to be. Or living with compassion. Compassion isn't just a feeling. It's a posture toward others and toward yourselves, even when it's painful. It's your response. Your values are the life you build, one action at a time, regardless of how anxious you feel in the moment. Now, here's where this gets really practical. Because knowing your values is one thing, but tracking whether your daily actions align with them, that's where the change happens. Now, this is the life worksheet. Life stands for living in full experience. Now, you can download this for free at my website, seanhardy.com. And it's from the Mindfulness and Acceptance Workbook for Anxiety. And this is something that I use with my clients. So here's how it works. The physical sensation checklist at the top, that's where you're going to check off what you're experiencing in your body right now. So is it dizziness, fast heartbeat, chest tightness, sweating, that feeling of unreality, trembling, all the physical markers of anxiety. So which ones are you experiencing? This builds awareness of what's happening in your body before you react to it. Next, you'll see the emotion and intensity rating. So you're going to identify the emotion. Is this fear, anxiety, depression? And then you're going to say how intense it is at this moment, from 0 to 8. This helps you see patterns like I always hit a 7 when I'm about to have a difficult conversation. Next, we have the willingness scale. So you're going to rate how willing you were to have these sensations and feelings without trying to manage them, get rid of them, suppress them, or run away from them. So the scale goes from completely unwilling, arms closed, to extremely willing, arms wide open. Now, this isn't whether or not you liked it or whether or not you wanted it. It's about whether you made space for it while still moving toward what matters. And then you're going to have 5 questions that track your actions. So what did you do in response? Where were you when these sensations occurred? What were you doing when they showed up? What was your mind telling you about the sensations and feelings? What did you do, if anything, about the thoughts, sensations, feelings? Did your actions get in the way of anything you really value? If so, what was that? Now let me show you what this looks like in practice. So imagine you're at your kid's bedtime and you start to have some anxiety. You check off chest tightness, fast heartbeat, feelings of unreality. And for the emotion, you say anxiety is at a 6, and maybe your willingness is at a 3 and you're trying to push it away. Now, where were you? In my son's bedroom. What were you doing? Trying to get him to sleep. What was your mind saying? He never listens. I'm a terrible parent. I can't handle this. What did you do? I yelled and walked out of the room. Did it get in the way of your values? Yes. I value patience and presence, but I moved away from both. See how that works? It's not about judgment here. It's about clarity. When you track this for a week, you start to sense your patterns. You start to see them. You notice when anxiety shows up, what it tells you, and whether you move toward or away from your values in the moment. That awareness is the first step to making different choices. So let's bring this full circle. At those funerals that I officiated, people didn't talk about how their loved ones felt. They talked about how they lived, the values that they embodied, the directions that they consistently moved in. the kind of person that they chose to be, even when it was hard. You get to choose that direction right now, not when you feel better, not when anxiety goes away, and not when you have it all figured out. Like right now. Before you move on, ask yourself this. What kind of person do I want to be in the presence of anxiety and depression? What do I want my life to stand for? What matters enough that I'm willing to feel discomfort in order to live it? Those questions anchor everything. So go ahead and download the life worksheet at my website, seanhardy.com, and start tracking this week. Notice when anxiety shows up, what your mind tells you, and whether your actions move you toward or away from your values. In the next video, we're going to dive into something I call the Star of Awareness. And it's a simple framework that helps you understand exactly why you know what matters, but still don't do it. And more importantly, how to fix that. So I'll see you in the next one. And remember, your journey toward a more purposeful and mindful life begins with a single click.